Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our Building the Workforce of Tomorrow with the SuperStrong Assessment webinar. My name is Karen Gonzalez, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at CPP. I will be moderating today's webinar. Now, first, let me just run you some quick logistics. The presentation will run for about 30 minutes. We will have 15 minutes at the end for questions, and if you have any questions throughout, please send them to me by using the questions function in the webinar controls. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sending out a link to the recording as well as the presentation slides in the next couple of days. Now I want to introduce you to Chris Mackey. As Senior Vice President, Chris drives growth and development for CPP's newest division, CPD Innovation Labs. Chris has spent much of his career developing innovative strategies to decrease costs, increase benefits, and expand access to solutions. His most recent endeavors include working with high schools, colleges, and universities to expand accessibility to personality and interest assessments within educational institutions. Chris attended Indiana University as a Wells Scholar and received his MBA from Pepperdine University. Now I'd like to turn the webinar over to him, and welcome, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Karen, and thank you for that very kind introduction. I think I'm looking at the same screen that everybody else is, which is building the workforce of tomorrow with the SuperStrong Assessment, and that sounds like a pretty weighty title. So I just wanted to say one thing is that the SuperStrong Assessment is kind of a small sliver of what we're going to talk about today. We're definitely a part of the ecosystem that's being created out there to prepare students for the 21st century world of work that's predicted to be, and we're already seeing, very rapidly changing. The gig economy, skills are having very short half-lives, and lifelong learning is becoming part of the everyday experience. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you for everyone here for attending this webinar, because your conversations with students every day are really the ones that are making the difference, and we're just happy to participate in that. So with that being said, what we're going to cover today is current trends in that we're seeing and that we're reading about, but a lot about what we're actually experiencing as we're talking to schools and our customers about the problems that they were facing and they actually are currently facing. How we see interest and personality data fitting into driving the goals that you all are trying to achieve. What we've done to help you solve those problems, and very specific examples of how we've solved our school's problems using the SuperStrong Assessment and the new platforms that we're developing at the CPD Innovation Labs. So starting with some trends from the education perspective, we've seen a pretty marked reduction in career services budgets over the last few years. This is recently from a report, the Heckinger report. So at the same time you see that reduction in your budgets, we see 85% of students saying that they want a good job, and that's a critical reason for them going to college. What we're seeing as we talk to schools is that assessment and career advice are being provided much earlier in the student life cycle. So we see much more of a prevalence of first-year experience. We see high school students having access to assessments to help them make post-secondary program choices. We even see a trend towards middle school using assessment and accompanying that with experiences, career experiences. There's even elementary school where it's not so much about assessment there, but rather I'm exposing children to the world of work and getting them to understand their futures early. The other trend that we see or we hear about from our schools is that students don't know about the services that are offered by career services or other student support services, or they simply don't take advantage of them or understand the value. So those are three themes that we hear about quite frequently. At the same time, there's the employer perspective, right? We've all heard about the skills gap. Here you see it pretty dramatically that 37% of employers can't get a new initiative off the ground because they can't hire the right people. And at the same time, they need to hire new grads because of demographic shifts. And there's also this strong disparity between, the employer perspective and the perspective of the educators, in that 11% of employers believe that college grads are prepared for the workforce, while 92% of chief academic officers believe the same thing. So they need to hire new grads that they feel are unprepared, and that while educators feel that they are prepared for the world of work. At the same time, there's many skills that are being imparted by you and the education that your students receive, such as soft skills, leadership, team, decision making. They cite soft skills as the greatest skills gap, and that soft skills are as important as the technical skills that they're hiring for. A couple of the workforce development agencies that we're working with call these 21st century essential skills. And there's very much a focus on getting students and even adult learners employment ready through training them on these types of soft skills. So those all roll up into some problems that we hear a lot about from our customers. The one thing is, and I'm sure this resonates fairly well with you, is I don't have enough time. There's too many students. We hear, we're overworked. We're not able to take a step back and look at the way that we're doing things to provide the most value to students, provide the most advice to students, and help them. We see nationally, I'm sure you're familiar with these statistics, over 500 to 1 student to counselor ratios. Here in California, it's over 900 to 1 student to counselor ratios. And we all know that we need about 200 students to 1 counselor for us to have a meaningful effect on student outcomes over time. So it's a very difficult situation when there's not enough of you and all those students. The other thing we hear quite a bit about is that students come to school and they don't declare a major. They don't know where they're going. We even have a school that calls this the no clue syndrome, and it's something they're trying to stamp out. Community colleges in California have put together, various ways of getting students to decide and putting education plans together. But we know that if students don't make those decisions early on, that they're much more likely to drop out and not persevere towards graduation and productivity in life. So another very specific problem that we hear quite a bit about is this decline in enrollment in liberal arts. And I'd be interested to know, if that resonates with all of you. But we hear this not only from small liberal arts colleges, but also very large public universities like the University of Minnesota. Students don't seem to understand the large number of career opportunities available to them with the liberal arts education. These are, the 21st century skills that you can impart to students through a college education, like problem solving, critical thinking, empathy, teamwork, design. Those coupled with relevant skills in education can lead to excellent career outcomes. So the question there is how to make students aware that their interests can lead them down a productive path. Finally, we have a lot of conversations with enrollment and admissions. There's a couple of years ago, the number of high school graduates peaked. That was from a Chronicle of Education report that was recently published, and we expect the number of graduates in the U.S. to decline over time. So there's an increasing competition among schools for high school graduates, and of course, attracting international students. So we see that as a problem, and we've been involved in helping schools be more productive in that area as well. So what we see in conversation with schools is that the 3 main initiatives that they're seeking to drive are increasing student retention. That's a key metric that everyone is focused on. And student retention leads to graduation and placement in a meaningful job. And then also there's a lot of conversation around personalized learning and making sure that the student experience is relevant. These are all high level initiatives that you may be responsible for driving. If not, one of them may be up your alley. getting students to persevere, graduate, and then find their place in the world. But the bottom line is that we're finding that this is a human experience that can use technology and assessment data to help counselors and educators achieve those high-level organizational and strategic goals. But the bottom line is it's about helping students engage with their futures early on in that educational journey, and how do we make it relevant to them, what they're doing every day, to understand how they achieve their goals. So what we did at CPP, because we've been working on these types of problems for many years now. Starting back in 2011, we began creating partnerships that led us to participating in nationwide initiatives like the White House's Open Data Initiative for Education. We conducted pilots with the Department of Labor's Innovation Hub in San Francisco. And then just a couple of years ago, in 2015, we formed the CPD Innovation Labs. Now, when we talk about innovation, very often we think of new cutting-edge technologies or products. But what we focus on is not only developing new assessments and platforms, but also in other areas of innovation. It's been a bit of a journey. We've made a lot of mistakes and gone down roads that haven't necessarily worked out, but we have learned along the way, and we continue to learn. And I think the thing that's really driven that learning is our just constant interaction with schools and our customers, and working to understand what we can do that's valuable to them. So I think you'll see that in something that many of you have been asking for over the many years, which is more of a subscription-based business model. That for us was an innovation. Generally we've at CPP we've provided reports on a per report basis, but we truly believe at the labs, and we'll get into this a little bit more, that universal access to assessments can drive a lot of positive things at your student, for your students individually, but also at your school and across society. So we've definitely developed new technologies and user experience that are digital and interactive, and have moved beyond the PDF report to engage students and provide you as counselors with feedback around their experience with assessment insight. And we've also developed and hired a data science capability that lets us tread new ground in assessment creation and report content development. So that's the CPD Innovation Labs, but let's talk a little bit more about what we at the labs are interested in and what we believe in. So I might say this is getting a little bit personal for us. So these are our key beliefs. I think we want to make personality and interest assessment accessible, driving access to those that may have never had the opportunity in the past to benefit from self-awareness and an understanding of how they fit in the world is something that really gets our juices flowing and what motivates us to come to work every day. We talk about that a lot. Another thing is that we think information is great. We all have this idea of big data or little data, but what do we do with it? We strongly believe that data can, in a sense, be a force for good in helping individuals and schools better understand themselves and help them achieve their goals and ultimately happiness and productivity in life. With universal access to assessment comes a new opportunity for organizations to create environments in which their employees and their students can thrive, and then also to help them navigate the tumultuous 21st century as organizations themselves. Finally, with personal and powerful data, we believe that control of assessment data and the accompanying insights should be squarely in the hands of the user. So we've created a lifelong learning platform called VitaNavis that we'll talk a little bit about more later. But we strongly believe that the student, that end user, should be in control of their data and with whom they share the data. It's personal and it belongs to them. That's important to us. So here's a couple of the initiatives that we have currently underway that our customers and schools are interacting with. The first is the VitaNavis platform. It's a lifelong learning platform where students are provided access to their assessment results and can explore careers and educational paths through the lens of their interest and personality. The VitaNavis platform allows educators, counselors, and advisors to access student records and supports meaningful conversations with those students through a common lens between student and advisor. There are tools on the site like VitaNavis Classrooms that help you to better understand the interest and personality makeups of classroom-sized groups up to about 50 students or so, and to visualize their interests, interact with the group results, and take that first step towards personalized learning. And then the other primary initiative that our customers are interacting with now is the SuperStrong. So you can see what that looks like on a small phone. We'll dig a little bit deeper into the SuperStrong in just a minute here, but first a question for you. And this is one that actually I asked myself kind of at the beginning of going down this area of aligning interests and career, because for me, what was the most interesting was personality, right? I like learning about the California Psychological Inventory and how it could predict performance, and how a top executive had a configuration of assessment results like high empathy, high dominance, and low sensitivity, those sorts of things. So I asked myself this question, and I think we as a group at the labs asked ourselves, what's so interesting about interests? And you can see just a couple of examples of recent research that's out there. The research on interests is vast and extensive. It's been going on since the 1920s, of course, or maybe earlier, with Dr. Strong's work. But here on the left, you see some work by Paul Sylvia, where he talks about knowledge emotions. There's 4 of them. One of them is awe. When I see a sunset, I'm in awe, and I may go seek knowledge. I act in order to seek knowledge. Confusion, surprise. Awe is the least commonly experienced knowledge emotion, whereas interest is the most commonly experienced knowledge emotion that spurs us to speak knowledge through acting in the world. So it's a powerful motivator, interest is. The other thing is that similar to personality and general intelligence, which here is in green, personality is in purple, blue there, and then interest is in brown. Interests are highly predictive of career outcomes. Here you see a study of about 400,000 adults that were surveyed by Dr. Rounds and Dr. Sue back in early, I think 2014 or so. And you can see that ability, personality and interest, grades in college persistence, degree attainment, occupational prestige, but look at income attainment. Interest is highly predictive. When your interests are aligned with what you're doing every day, it's highly predictive of how you perform. And then with income, it outweighs everything else, including general intelligence and personality. So I find that pretty interesting. It's almost like you think about Forrest Gump when he played ping pong, when he became a shrimper, when he ran. He really got into it, and he became interested. He took action. He became better, and eventually he became an expert. So that for me is what's so interesting about interest, and what I think keeps us pretty occupied with our work at the labs. So a little bit about the SuperStrong assessment. It is derived from the venerable Strong Interest Inventory Assessment. It's accessible on a mobile device. The SuperStrong takes just 5 to 7 minutes to complete. Students describe to us, taking it on the way to class on the bus or on the bench before an advising appointment. The results are fully compatible with Strong certification and are immediately available to the student and you. The entire experience, not only the assessment and results, has been translated into Spanish. It means students, and even in some cases, we find that their parents are taking the assessment. Students can explore careers and educational paths in their native Spanish. The experience is not only easy to use and friendly for students, but also for counselors and educators that are advising students. We've heard feedback from our users that the platform is a real enabler, that they would not be able to do their work without some of the features on the SuperStrong and on the VitaNavis platform. So we've mapped our interests, mapped SuperStrong interests to not only to all the possible opportunities in the world of work, but also specifically to the programs that your school offers. We mapped to the Department of Labor's ONET, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Department of Education IPEDS, which allows students to explore career goals and the programs to get them there in real time. So finally, I'll give a shout out to our Chief Technology Officer. He's highly focused on data security and ensuring that we've built a system that you and your students can trust. So a little bit about that, but what about validity, reliability, the things that CPP is known for in terms of assessment creation? And we spent a lot of time on the SuperStrong. We took over 400,000 cases, compared them to full strong interest inventory results. We developed novel scoring algorithms through our data scientists. We conducted extensive test retest using current strong users, as well as folks that are just brand new to either assessment. We on a constant and regular basis, we have on our system validation of the rating. So we're regularly honing the results and ensuring the accuracy, and also providing you with information that gives you an opportunity to have a meaningful human conversation with the student. So it does live up to the rigorous psychometric standards of CPP. And if you're interested, we have a SuperStrong technical brief that you can take a look at. It may be good before bedtime if you'd like to take a nap or sleep, but it's also chock full of all the research that we did in order to develop the assessment. So that's freely available if you need it. So that's a lot about what we did, but it's also, for me, what's most important is the practical aspect and what do our students say. And these are just some statistics from a few studies that our schools have conducted independently post-assessment. We see very high assessment completion rates, 98% of assessment completion rates at one of the schools. All the schools register 90% plus completion rates. Students respond that this was a valuable experience, clear understanding of my results. I'm aware of more major options. But really, what I think we're all trying to do for students is to better equip them to make decisions. So for us, that was the most important statistics that's come out of any of this research, is that students are better equipped to make decisions, and we hope we've had a part in that too. So we remember this problem. How do we serve more students, right? There's not enough time, too many students. What we've seen our schools do with the SuperStrong is offer this very often in first-year experience. So students will have a self-administrable, self-interpretable experience, which you see there on the left, where you see your SuperStrong insights. And then, before the advising meeting, they'll have absorbed that. They will have been able to do some career exploration. And then when they meet with the advisor, which is the view on the right, they're able to quickly get down to business and start making decisions and have a meaningful conversation. And certainly there is some interpretation of results that goes on and questions that happen. But at that moment, the student is in the mode of making decision and getting to action. Another area that we see quite a bit of usage of the SuperStrong is in that, helping students declare their majors or understand what options are available to them. So if you look from the left to the right, where it says save your favorites, manage and review, and then compare details, where we started was to make an open system that could be fully exploratory. So we wanted to open up the world, but then working with some of our colleagues down in San Diego, actually, we found that too much exploration led to lack of action. So we created new interfaces to help students save their favorite occupations, put them side by side and compare those various outcomes. So what we've seen a lot of schools do is actually develop, exercises around this whole idea of exploration, but then, hey, we've got to winnow this down and start making decisions. And that's been, a really positive outcome, because students then, they can see the world, but then they also have to narrow it down and act. Again, it's all about action for us. Finally, on the enrollment side, we've had a lot of conversations with admissions and even marketing, where they talk about, I don't want to stand anymore, or there's fewer students that are right for us. They're still casting these very wide nets, but they're capturing all the fish without kind of winnowing that down early. So we see assessment being used, both interest and personality, to get the right fit students out of the gate. Even as early as high school, we see admissions reaching out to high school counselors, offering them the SuperStrong through the unlimited site license as a tool for them to use, both as high school counselors offer guidance to the students, and for those students to also explore the programs at the school. So you can see that illustrated through the matching that we do from school program to interest there. So that's a little bit about us, and I think we'll have a little time for questions. But I think the main thing to note about what we've learned is that this whole idea of interest alignment is extraordinarily important to engagement. This is another diagram from a meta-analysis done by Rounds and Sue, where they see interest as sort of the foundational component of goal attainment, right? If your interests are aligned with what you're doing, you become motivated. You have a direction for that motivation. You pursue things with a certain vigor, and you persist, right? And we saw that with some of the career outcome data. That motivation results in you creating goals, right? And going after those goals and digging deeper, and eventually that goal attainment. So we talk about engagement, but what we're finding with our student success research is that we start with interest alignment. That leads to student action and achievement of those key strategic initiatives. And then what we can do is look at personality and how we can, best intervene with students that may need some help through a personality lens. But interest is really that fundamental start that we've been focused on here at the labs. So with that being said, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I hope that we provided some valuable information, and that we can answer some questions here at the end of the webinar.
Great, thank you for that, Chris. We did have some questions come in. I did also want to tell folks that we will be sending a follow-up email in the next couple of days that will include this recording as well as the slides. And both Chris and Gib have given you access to actually try the SuperStrong yourself. So we will be sending you a promotional code through that email, so please look for that. And Chris, I have a few questions to ask here. The first question is this available on Skills One or Elevate platforms?
So the SuperStrong Assessment and the interactivity of the VitaNavis platform is only available on an unlimited site license basis on the VitaNavis platform. So it's, the SuperStrong is one part of the entire experience, and then the VitaNavis platform provides the student with lifelong access to their personality and interest results. So that's where they would access it. So VitaNavis.
Okay, so another question that we had here was, can the career counselors see the things students are saving as favorites?
Karen, could you repeat that? It sounded like you said, can students and the career counselors see the same results? Is that what you asked?
Oh, it was what when you were talking about saving. The students can save the careers that come up for them as favorites. So our attendee is asking if the career counselor can see when the students are saving their favorites. So can the career counselor see the favorites that the students mark off?
So right now, what students are able to share are the results of their assessments. So the SuperStrong results, along with the matches for the school program. So we don't actually share that exploration process because it's a lot that they may share and compare, and it may not be conclusive. The student can certainly share that through a conversation, but it's not done via the system for that reason.
Okay, great. And we've had several questions come through, so I'll just kind of summarize it. But they're asking things like, what are the costs and fees associated, or things like, is it an annual subscription? How could a student access the instrument? Can they pay individually online, or they need a code from the career office? So I'm kind of just summing up the different questions that we've had.
Okay, great. So the fees are an annual subscription license. It's based generally on enrollment of your institution. What we found is that there's a lot of collaboration between different departments. So oftentimes we deal with enrollment management along with counseling, or sometimes those two departments are actually under the same roof. Students are able to access the assessment, through a link that you can provide to them with a promo code, or you can, provide them with a promo code in print. Gib and I are actually sending everyone on the call a promo code so that you can experiment with it. But if you're interested in learning more, just email us at studentsuccess@cpp.com, and we can provide you with more information or run you through the counselor administrator side of the site. So what you'll see is the student experience, and then what we like to do is dive a little bit deeper into the other side, which is where you'll be interacting with student results.
Great, thank you. Another good question. Do you have to be certified in the Strong Interest Inventory in order to administer the SuperStrong?
You do not. You do not. It doesn't require certification. It's similar in that way to the iStart Strong. However, what we've been doing with many of the schools is offering training so that everyone can have a fundamental understanding of interests, their relevance, and why they're important. Now, the SuperStrong does not provide occupational scale measures, which have historically been confusing to both the student and sometimes even to trained practitioners because of the prescriptive and nature and specificity of the occupational scale. So we recommend that we do some training, but it's not as in-depth as the Strong certification. Now, the SuperStrong is fully compatible with Strong certification. So Strong certification continues to be valuable in that regard. And what we've found is a lot of train the trainers, programs going on as we've rolled out the SuperStrong to schools.
Okay, so Chris, are universities using both traditional Strong reports and the SuperStrong? Like, what have you seen?
Oh, that's a great question. And it was interesting to us because we just weren't sure what would happen. But what we found is that schools continue to use both. The SuperStrong has a different application than the full Strong. Students, one way that the SuperStrong is actually being used by career centers is almost as a marketing tool to bring more students into the career center. So just the way that the university almost uses the SuperStrong as a way to reach out to prospective students, the career center at the same time is able to use it as a way to reach out to enrolled students. But we find that both instruments are being used by our universities, and not necessarily, it's not an either or situation.
Okay, another one is, can the counselor see the results automatically or right away when the student takes SuperStrong?
As soon as they've completed the assessment, you have access to the results. So what we found is that there's one school actually that uses this as their, kind of onboarding process pre-enrollment. And a student will sit in the lobby and take the SuperStrong, and then they'll view the results together and talk about whether the various programs at that school are a fit. So yes, the results are immediately available to both the student and the counselor.
Okay, now we have a question about, let's see, is this applicable for high school students and their career counselors?
Oh, so yeah, we've got some really great stories to tell about work that we've been lucky to do with high schools. It's been very rewarding. There's, one of the districts we're working with is Vista Unified School District down in San Diego. They do a personalized learning academy that has, assessment to start, and then they personalize the learning over the course of a year. And some of the student outcomes that they've seen have been incredible. We've worked with large districts down there like San Diego Unified, and some other districts down in San Diego. So they're actually, we also have built a, we're completely FERPA compliant, but we're also COPA compliant in that we have an onboarding process for students that are less than 13 years old. So we have students in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are taking the SuperStrong and then going through a guided activity with teachers and counselors there. So yes, it's built for middle school, high school, post-secondary.
Okay, Chris. So another one is, how long does the deployment of the tool usually take? What kind of runway do we need, or do they need?
Oh, that's great question. So we have a quick start guide that runs you through a process of how we set up your counselor advisor users, so people that can see student records. And then we talk about how we can personalize your site. So everybody, every school gets a personalized website with your logo, your school colors, those sorts of things. Then we talk about the use of the different codes so students can access it. That takes us about an hour. We usually come to those types of meetings with a website all set up, but you're up and running after an hour of conversation and a run through the system.
Okay, another one. How many administrators of the SuperStrong can we have?
So just like you have unlimited access for your students, we'll allow you unlimited access to advisor users. So if you have 100 counselors, you can have 100 users, and all those students can get served through the counselors, unlimited.
Okay, here's another question. It's a cost related, but they're asking, will there be a per user fee for this, or just the initial licensing fee or license fee?
No, we feel that we are a pretty mission driven organization at CPP, in the sense that we want to figure out ways to provide access to assessment insight, both personality and interest. We want to make it universal, and we want to have organizations benefit from making it universal. So we don't want to put any hurdles in the way of you just providing this to everybody. Whether in high schools we have parents that are using it, we have colleges that are providing it to their prospective students. So it's different than what we've done in the past with the SuperStrong, in that we really try to take down those gates or hurdles that may have prevented you from providing this to everyone on your campus and even beyond.
Okay, I had another. This is a really good question. So they're asking, what about the occupational skills? Where do those fall in for the SuperStrong?
Oh, it's a great question. So what we did, so historically, if you're solving for something like access, okay, so we're solving for access and providing students with, an opportunity to benefit from self-awareness, right? So we know that the counselor to student ratios have to get better. The good thing is there is a lot of prediction around, the counselor occupation as being one that's going to, be in demand over the coming years. But we wanted to make this self-administrable and self-interpretable. And occupational scales just historically have been, confusing to students, even confusing to the certified practitioner because of their specificity and their sort of prescriptive nature. So if you're telling a student that, you're very high on being a bartender, you need to talk them through that. And we didn't feel that we could do that through, a self-administrable and interpretable experience. So what we did instead is we mapped, the basic interest scales, the 30, more granular measures of interest that are unique to the Strong to the Department of Labor's ONET database, to the the Bureau of Labor Statistics database, and then to the Department of Education's IPEDS database, which is all the programs at post-secondary institutions in the U.S. So what we've done, instead of limiting students' experience to those occupational scales, of which there are 130 for each gender, we opened it up to all the occupations that are out there, made it fully exploratory, and use the data that's out there through the government. So that really, it was all about the access that we wanted to provide. And we may eventually do some things with occupational scales. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we have several questions still coming in, which is great. But I think we have time for 2 more. So I think you did mention this earlier, but I just wanted to ask it again because we have somebody else ask. They're asking, is the SuperStrong ADA compliant?
It is. Yeah, we did testing on that through different viewers, and it is.
Great. Okay, so one more question here. Is there an additional charge to personalize the university's majors?
No, we do that automatically for you. One of the things that we talk about and feedback that we got with admissions is that we provide sort of a third-party endorsement of this whole idea of interest fit. So CPV is known for the validity, reliability, and accuracy of the assessment. So the SuperStrong interest fit with your program is something that we kind of put our stamp of approval on, and we don't charge anything additional for that. That's part of the package, and it's done programmatically on our end.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, so thank you, everyone. And actually, I know we got several really great questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send these over to you, Chris, and to Gib. And you two can just, divide those with divide and conquer and reply back to everyone, because I think they're really great questions. I try to pick through the ones that several people asked. So I think these were really great. Thank you for that. So unfortunately, we have run out of time. And but I really thank all of you for being here. We had a really engaged audience. That's really exciting to see. And as a reminder, we will send you a follow-up email with the links to the recording, the slides, as well as the promotion code that we mentioned, so that you can take the SuperStrong yourself. And also, I do want to mention that when we send you that promotion code, you can feel free to share that with your colleagues as well, to have them try out the SuperStrong and take it themselves, and you can have a discussion or whatever you'd like. So I would like to say thank you all again for your time today, and thank you, Chris, for the great presentation, and we hope to see you at another webinar. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time.